You're unique.
Mike Michalowicz, thank you so much for being on the Visibility Podcast. It is a pleasure of mine to have you.
I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me, Melissa.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I am going to ask you a question that was not on the question.
Oh,
I
I
know.
did all this preparation, all this
All
prep.
this prep. But I heard somebody ask you this, and it just melted my heart and made me adore you even more. And I want you to share just this little side note of you, how you met your wife,
Oh, well,
the
I'm
story of how you met her.
gonna say a little bit. I'm gonna use the word stalking, but I gotta be very careful because that is a serious situation. Um, but I did stalk her. So my wife, we were at a bar. I was at a bar with some mutual friends. She walks in holding a baby, and I'm like, oh my, that babysitter is someone I like to meet. Later to find out it was her child. She was in a relationship that it was in the best interest of everybody to go separate ways. But she was pregnant. And fast forward, this is now Tyler was 2.5, 3 years old. And I was just mesmerized. And so for 2 years, you got to be careful about pursuing someone who is raising a family, you know? And so after 2 years, she acquiesced and we went out for a date. And it was remarkable. And 6 weeks later, I proposed to her and we got married.
I love that story. I just love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we
I
have three kids. Tyler obviously being the oldest, and it's just, yeah, adore her even more every day.
Awesome, awesome. And congrats on your long marriage of being together and
Thanks.
changing,
30 years
change.
this
Yeah,
year, 30
yeah.
years.
Congrats, congrats. All right. So you guys on listening, that had nothing to do with marketing, right? No, nothing.
Well,
But
maybe the pursuing, right?
but
And the connect.
you're getting to it. It's the connection. As my little kiddos say in class, Miss Melissa, we have a connection. Maybe you have a connection to that story. Maybe that just intrigued you even more. If you don't know anything about Mike Michalowicz, maybe you saw a side of him that you never saw before, and you're like, okay, now I really want to listen. What does he have to say here on the Visibility Podcast? And that, to my point, is good marketing. Pulls you in, makes you curious, makes you
Yeah.
lean in, and you're creating messaging that resonates with your perfect client. So, one of the questions I have for Mike is working with business owners. They often believe their problem is visibility. So they think, okay, let's just do more and let's throw more and let's do
Yeah.
more over here and there and there and there. And when we apply the principles from the pumpkin plan, we find the real issue isn't visibility at all. It's the complete lack of focus. So, in your experience, Mike, why do so many business owners try to fix the problem with marketing?
Yeah. And marketing, I would say, what I'm hearing through that question also is marketing the wrong way. In fact, it's interesting. We amplify our invisibility. So most businesses say, people don't know I exist. I need them to be aware I exist. So let me look at the best practices of my industry and pursue that as a method to get exposure. Well, this is in the Pumpkin Plan, but also another book I wrote about marketing. And what we have to understand is how the human mind works. Our minds are very effective at ignoring things. In fact, it's absolutely critical. Even as we're doing this right now, there's stimuli all around me. There's a screen scrolling by. There's all these different things going on. I have three markers on my desk here. If my mind paid attention to every single thing going on, it'd be absolutely overwhelmed and I'd proverbially explode. So we have this thing called the reticular formation. It's a net that blocks stimuli from coming in and it opens up. Famously, there's talks about like if you see a car you never saw before, but you bought one, now you see it everywhere. That's your reticular formation opening up. It's called the reticular activating system, but it triggers throughput. We as marketers, as business owners, need to get through the mind that's blocking everything. The number one thing the mind blocks is something is already familiar with that's of no value. So I remember Melissa, I got this email, and you got it too, maybe 10 or 15 years ago that started off with the words, "Hey friend." And the very first one I got, I was like, oh my God, I have this friend who thinks I'm so friendly. They're calling me friend. And I get like all emotional. I start reading it. I'm like, this is bull. They are manipulative marketers. Well, ever since then, every hey friend, my reticular formation was wired to say, ignore that. So if we replicate the marketing behavior of others, it gets ignored. So
Sure.
the number one way to get visible is to differentiate your marketing. Take it from someone else. I call it R&D, rip off and duplicate. Steal it from another industry and introduce it.
Mhm.
And in the public plan, I focus a lot on this necessity to be unique. And it's not just in the traditional marketing like we think of some kind of campaign, but it's also the way the business is assembled.
Mhm.
I'll give one more story. Is I used to be in the computer space doing computer systems, and I was competing with my competition. And whenever I saw an opportunity or could pursue it, I would say, "Hey, you should use me. I'm more qualified. I'm more this and I'm more that. I'm the better company." My competition would say the exact same thing, which is actually triggering habituation. One company came in and kicked my butt all the way to Sunday. And it was Geek Squad. And what Geek Squad simply said is, "We're not better. We just dress like geeks." And people are like, "Oh my God, it's amazing." And the reason people did that is because the reticular formation opens up and says, "There's this geek
Mm.
with taped glasses and flood pants carrying a computer. Who is that?" And it engaged us.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you have to dress in costume. I'm not saying you have to be, Yucko the clown, but you have to do something that is absolutely distinct and different. That's the only way into the consumer's mind.
Mhm. Mhm. So true. So true. Um, I'm not even going to go into stories of clients, but yes, there's a musical. You got to have a gimmick.
Yeah.
It's just, and whether it's a gimmick or whatever, but you do have to lean into. And I love the pumpkin plan because it really leans into you as a business. What is your special secret sauce? And sometimes it's I find sometimes it's for me even I didn't want to talk about it. Like I have a dance studio. So I'm a super small
Rock and roll.
studio, super small
Yeah.
studio. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not putting big production numbers or all that. We're not splashy like that. But when I interview my clients through the wish list and finding out what their thing is, it's because of that small studio, because my kid is seen, because my kid is valued, because they're not a number. And I'm like, I need to highlight that more. And that's what I was kind of
Emphasize it.
insecure. That's what I was insecure about.
I'll give you a
And
strategy just around that because it just triggered this. I have a friend who owned a salon. He subsequently sold it. It grew explosively. What they did is it was for female consumers predominantly. When someone would come in for the first time, you got a gold, what do they call that thing that they throw over drape,
yeah, robe. Yeah.
robe, whatever, right? The standard was black for everybody, but
Right.
a first time customer would get gold, but they weren't told that. They would just get one and put it on there. The entire staff was trained when her haircut was done, go to her and say, you look amazing. And I love it. And be genuine, but
Right.
emphasize the remarkable transformation. The customer loyalty skyrocketed. And what they were doing was actually what you're already doing. Like you inherently do this. Everyone there wants to compliment their clients, but they're just not doing it. So they set up something different or interesting, something different gets through reticular formation, so they would notice and then can invoke the behavior that they naturally had inside them, but just weren't doing naturally.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Please tell me your wheels are turning, people. Oh my gosh. So
Do
good.
it.
Okay, you talk about removing the small pumpkins, okay? Or so the big
Yeah.
pumpkins can grow. And I see this play out all the time with marketing. When businesses finally identify those best clients, suddenly their messages become super clear, super, super clear, super easy, and the visibility improves almost overnight. And I have experienced that. I've seen that in my clients. But why does narrowing the focus actually make businesses more attractive to customers? And then a follow up there, Mike, if you have a business that needs all those little pumpkins to make payroll, to make the ends meet, and it's kind
Yeah.
of scary to pull those pumpkins knowing that they have to go, help us there.
Yeah. This is actually the biggest fear. So I love behavioral theory. I'm not certified in this, by the way. I'm not degreed, but I consume it constantly. I read it constantly. And to the point where now I'm cognitively aware when I'm walking around, instead of subconsciously seeing something, I see something like, oh, I see the cognitive or behavioral triggers. So there's a thing called loss aversion. And loss aversion is once we have possession of something, the fear of losing it is an amplitude over the fear or the effort required to gain it. A classic study is you're eyeing up that thing you've always wanted. Let's say it's a car, just because that's a big price tag. I always wanted that little red Corvette. Little shout out to Prince. And there you go. And what we do is we purchase it and we get in our garage, and then we get the call from the store saying, you haven't made your payment. We're gonna reclaim the car. You're paying us insurance you can't afford. So what do? Well, we drop the insurance. We keep it locked in the garage. We work a second job to possess it because that's my baby now. But when it was at the auto store, it wasn't my baby. It's once I had possession over it. Now, the interesting thing is to acquire it in the first place, I could have worked a second job and find all these alternative ways to gain it. So we make more effort to retain than we do to gain.
That's
That's the
so true.
lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So we bring on clients and they may be unfit. They may be generating revenue, but they could be costing us so much emotionally. You can't go to sleep at night because there's such pains in the arses and stuff. They actually may be causing us to lose money because they require us to provide more services, to repeat things, to do it for free. So we know logically it's costing us, but our mind that's designed to retain more than gain says you can't afford to lose them. And then we logically backfill by saying, if we lose them, we're going to lose revenue. I can't pay payroll.
Mm-hmm.
Here's reality. When you have the courage to get rid of that first unfit customer, I call them jackwads. When you get rid of that jackwad, just one, you'll see that the return is all this open space mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I can't promise you that a new client will come pouring in the second get rid of another one, but you'll have the mental availability to serve them. And I'm constantly surprised by how many opportunities are passing us by because we're just mentally consumed of worrying about maintaining the jackwads.
Mm-hmm.
So in the pumpkin plan, the strategy is get rid of one or two of the low-hanging, I shouldn't say low-hanging fruit, the unqualified, unfit customers. Your team, which may just be your own mind, but it could also be people around you, contractors, vendors, employees, part-time or full, will often laud you with acknowledgement, saying, thank you so much for getting rid of them. They were such a pain. Your own internal constitution will improve because you'll say, I finally stood up for who I am and protecting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you start building this strength and courage. That's what happens immediately. Then we can, if new clients aren't already kind of bubbling around that you can't grab, you can start marketing, just as we talked about, in new ways to pursue them.
Mm-hmm.
You always want to up-level your clients. Get rid of the ones that are unfit, pursue the ones that are more fit. It does take courage, but that's the pumpkin plan. Get rid of the unfit little pumpkins or diseased leaves.
Mm-hmm. And that is scary. I've been there, done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Multiple times. I have found, I read the book Pumpkin Plan probably 4 years ago or so because we added a program to our studio and I wanted to interview my best clients to see what they wanted or why were they choosing us. And this is just a little side note too. I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I feel that this is an exercise that is constantly being maybe it's just me. I doubt it though, that we get busy, we get all these little pumpkins kind of sneaking in and we kind of have to redo it and reweed, right?
100%. And I'll tell you why.
Okay, good. I'm normal.
So because they talk about you, the unfit clients.
Yeah.
So imagine that. Say you're a website developer, just because I remember years ago working with a website developer who had this exact problem. And she goes to me, she goes, I have all these clients that are coming to me, prospects are coming to me and I'm making clients, but they're only willing to pay like $100 a website and they're not willing to pay. And they're so critical and they bitch and moan constantly. She was like, what do I do? I said, tell me, do you have any clients that don't complain, that are engaged in it? She goes, yeah, I have a few. I said, how much do they spend with you? She goes, oh, they do websites for $5,000 or $10,000. So I said, interesting. The clients who pay you a lot seem to be the higher quality clients in the way they engage with you. And the ones who pay you very little are less quality. She goes, that's exactly the truth. And that's human nature. Yeah. The less we pay, the less we're invested in the effort. And therefore, the less invested we are, the less vested we are, the less we care about it. Imagine doing a website for free. That means you're valueless. I would argue the number one form of marketing in the world that no one talks about this, is price itself. Imagine you're at a jeweler and they pop down a ring, a beautiful diamond ring, and the jeweler points to it and says, that's worth $50 cash. Now, the same jeweler puts down the exact same ring and points that, says, that's worth $5,000 cash. Which ring is the real ring and which one is the cubic zirconia or whatever it is, the plastic one? We know instantly. Price dictates perception. Yeah. And so those bad clients that are coming to you, I'll tell you what they do. They say, listen, I paid $100 for a website. I bitched, I moaned, I had them redo the website for me. They did all these things and I only paid $100. They go to their friends and say, you wouldn't believe this. There's a company, if you pay them $100, you can bitch and moan like crazy and you'll get exactly what you want for $100. Mm-hmm. So they start spreading the word on how great you are because you accommodate how much they bitch and moan. Now, that's not the words they use, and they would never
No,
frame it that
no.
way. But like people hang out with people like them.
Mhm.
Those great quality clients, when you cater to them, they'll go to other ones and say, hey, listen, if a website matters to you more than anything, there's a company that admittedly it's an investment, but they catered to every ounce of what we needed. They worked with us. We gave them what they needed and they turned it around. And that's the customers that pay a lot that'll speak like that about you.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. We're going to wrap it up with this last question.
Lay it on me,
All
sister.
right, I know, right? Give us a dream, Mike. You've helped thousands of business owners implement the pumpkin plan. When a business truly commits to focusing on their best clients and their best work, what changes do you usually see happen in the business owner's life?
Oh my God. So,
Give us a story. Give us
all
some
right.
good
You want a story? Okay.
testimonials. Yes, we love
Yes.
story.
So yesterday, I returned from a keynote I delivered to a conference called Clean Con. Clean Con are residential cleaners. So if you have a service that comes in your home to clean it, this is the companies that were doing it, all micro companies. And I did a presentation, and we had a blast. It was amazing. The group was so engaged, and a couple hundred people in the audience. And at the end, they said we want to do Q&A with Mike, kind of like what we're doing now, right? And the first person stands up and says, I got to tell you something. And I start seeing her eyes well. And I'm a co-crier. So Melissa, if you start crying, like I'll just start crying. And it devolves very quickly. I start like this dry heaving effect and there's vomit. It's like, it's real. So she starts crying. I'm like, I want to keep eye contact, but I can't. And she goes, I got to tell you, I deployed the pumpkin plan. And I followed the script of identifying the best clients and catering to them and pruning out the unfit clients. I refined my offering. Like I was doing all these different things as a cleaner. We were doing HEPA compliance. And, we'll clean your home. And I said, no, this is the things we're capable of. We reduced our offering. And she goes, my business exploded. It took off. And I said, well, why do you think? Hoping she would say, because of you, Mike, and bad. But she did. She said, well, when I followed the pumpkin plan, I started finding out that customers buy or move in pockets. So there's a certain customer
Mm,
type that has certain expectations and certain leniency and certain behaviors and certain desires. And when I started catering to her, I realized she started introducing me to other clients like her, but they were
mhm,
like her. They were her friends. And it just took off. And they went from a struggling business to a multi-million-dollar cleaning business.
mhm,
And it happened over and over again. It was funny. It didn't become a Q&A. It was like testimonials. I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
mhm,
why aren't we filming this?
mhm,
The the interesting thing is the more refined you are in what you do, the fewer things you do, the better you build a
mhm,
reputation for excellence. So the
mhm,
one thing I shared on that stage, once kind of these breakout testimonials happened, I said, I want to share a story about two doctors. And let's pretend that someone in this room, or me, say me, has a heart attack. So I have a cardiovascular event and I'm rushed to the hospital. And two doctors walk out prepared to do this emergency surgery. The first doctor presents himself and he goes, um, I'm really struggling here. I'm living check by check. I serve as many patients as I can. In fact, because I'm barely getting by. And listen, I don't just do heart surgery. I'm trying to do brain surgery. I'm kind of into geriatrics. I'm really broadening the service that I have, and I'm willing to do 50% off. Are you interested in my surgery? Doctor two comes out and she says, "Hi, I'm a cardiovascular surgeon. In fact, the exact health crisis you're having right now is what I do. In fact, it's the only thing I do. I did about 500 operations and procedures last year. I have a 99% success rate and 100% recovery for those 99% of patients. I charge a significant fee. In fact, I'm very proud. I have the largest house in my community as a result, and I live a very large life. But my fee is $1 million, and the other person is charging 10,000 bucks. Who do you choose?
mhm,
I hope everyone listening in says, I'm choosing the $1 million doctor. And why? Because our life's on the line here. We want someone that's qualified and capable. Now, some patients will come in with the sniffles. Go to doctor discount. But if you want the best for your scenario, go to the best. Hey, listen, I don't have $1 million, but I'll
mhm,
by hook or crook find that money because my life's on the line.
mhm.
Every person listening in, Melissa, has to realize that you may not be saving lives. We are all altering lives.
Oh, I love that.
Your studio, there is children going through that experience that are expressing themselves in a way they could have never before, and maybe find something that becomes a life passion. Their parents have an outlet where they have a trusted person giving someone a skill, which I'll tell you, in this economy, is one of the great skills to have is creativity, humanity, the arts. It is it. It's crazy to say STEM, the sciences, is dead, but that's what AI is doing to us. You are life altering. Now, you're not life altering for every single student or every single parent in there, but there is a community of parents that know this is life altering.
Mm-hmm.
And if we cater to them, more and more of them will be attracted to us.
Yep.
So whoever's listening in, whatever industry you're in, there is a modicum, maybe 10 or 20% of a community that sees our services life altering. There's a majority, 80 or 90%, who see our services as a commodity, as exchangeable. Mm-hmm. So are you going to be something that's extraordinary, transactional, life transformation, or commodity? Mm-hmm. You are what you attract. So just look at your customer base. And if 80% of your customers are, all about the transaction, bitching and moaning and so forth, you have by choice designed your company to support that. Mm-hmm. Look at your remaining customers, and there is a community like them. There may be fewer of them, but there's a community like them, and start angling and pursuing them. It'll be transformative, not just for them, but for you too.
Mm-hmm. So good. So good. If you want to know how to do that, pick up the book, Pumpkin Plan. Otherwise, you can work with me if you want to help get that and map that out so that you can be successful and get that marketing landed, get that plane landed so the right people are getting there.
Yeah, it's funny. You and I were talking about Profit First before, and you were sharing how you deployed that. That's one of my books. And I said, it's just a recipe, but you're the cook. And I love that now you're a sous chef too. I can't tell you how many people have read the Pumpkin Plan and say, I love it. And they say, but I don't know if I'm doing it right. And I just invite people to explore the concept, read the recipe, but get yourself a chef. And so thank you for what you're doing in converting these businesses from stuck in the struggle to significance.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for the framework. You guys, I hope this was as much fun for you as it was for me. This has been a bucket list since 6 years ago. I had a list of dream podcast guests, and Mike Michalowicz was on the top of that list. So here we are. It's a good day. It's a good day.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we will see you here, same time, same place next week. Peace. Bye-bye.